How the turned career self-destruction into a full-time job? There are artists who get canceled once, maybe twice, and then disappear into some overpriced retreat to heal. But not Kanye West. Oh no, that doesn't get canceled like regular mortals. He gets canceled like it's a world tour with merch and VIP packages. This man has turned the public fallout into an art form so refined it deserves its own Grammy category. Best meltdown in a leading role. Let's be real. Kanye doesn't just flirt with controversy. He marries it, divorces it, then writes 3 albums about it. Getting canceled isn't an accident for him. It's practically a marketing strategy. Most celebrities fear cancellation like it's a career-ending monster. Kanye? He rides it like a jet ski on the waves of public opinion, waving a MAGA hat in one hand and a mic in the other. We're talking about a man who once said, George Bush doesn't care about black people on live TV next to Mike Myers, who aged 10 years in 2 seconds. That was 2005. Fast forward to the 2010s. And he's calling slavery a choice on TMZ. And just when you think the bar can't go any lower, he brings shovels. But the real twist here is that every time Kanye detonates his public image like a bored billionaire playing with fireworks, he somehow finds a way to turn ashes into album sales. The man dropped a record called The Right After a Flurry of Controversy, and people still streamed it like it was holy scripture. Then Jesus is King drops, and boom, suddenly we're all at Sunday service in off-white robes trying to pretend we didn't just unfollow him last week. Here's the thing, Kanye's cancellation isn't just about being offensive. It's about being unapologetically Kanye. He doesn't retract. He doesn't explain. He doubles down. Like he's at a Vegas blackjack table with the future of his career on the line, and the worst part? It works. Not because people agree with him, but because no matter how loud the backlash gets, there remains the loudest voice in the room, social media. That's his arena. He'll get banned from one platform and pop up on another like a digital hydra. Say something about Kanye and you might wake up to him in your DMs with a screenshot and a Bible verse. He's part artist, part arsonist, lighting fires in the culture, then performing concerts next to the flames. And the media? They're complicit. Let's not act like Kanye's controversy isn't a gold mine for clicks. Every outburst, every tweet, every wild-eyed interview becomes a headline faster than you can say mental health crisis. But the sad truth is, the more chaotic he gets, the more the world pays attention. It's exhausting. For us. For fans, for journalists, for fashion brands, for Spotify. For his own PR team, which, let's be honest, probably quit years ago and are just watching this unfold from a distance like a Netflix docuseries. The cycle is clear. Kanye says something outrageous. The internet explodes. Brands drop him. Everyone debates whether he's a misunderstood genius or just straight up unhinged. Rinse, repeat. But here's the real kicker. You can't cancel someone who thrives on being the villain. That's the magic trick. Kanye doesn't need your approval. He needs your attention. And in the era of 24/7 outrage, that's the most valuable currency there is. So while other artists tread carefully, trying not to offend anyone, the charges into the spotlight, guns blazing and soul bare. One week he's quoting Hitler, the next he's selling limited edition Yeezys. One day he's calling himself the new Moses. The next he's ranting on Instagram like a prophet with Wi-Fi. Is it mental illness? Is it marketing? Is it messianic complex deluxe? Honestly, it's probably all three, and maybe that's the point. Kanye isn't just canceled. He's chronically canceled. Perpetually problematic, terminally trending, and that's exactly where he wants to be. So yeah, if you're wondering why it sucks to be born as Kanye West, this is Exhibit A. You don't get to have quiet days, you don't get peace. You get headlines, backlash, Twitter storms, protest hashtags, and still, somehow, a sold-out arena. Because at the end of the day, no matter how many times the gets canceled, the world keeps watching. Hate him or worship him, just don't look away. And that, my friend, is the Kanye West paradox in full force. One post, infinite consequences. And a career that hasn't stopped bleeding since. You ever witness a car crash in slow motion? That was Kanye West's infamous DEFCON 3 tweet, except the car was on fire, the brakes were cut, and the was behind the wheel grinning like the Joker. If there's one moment that defines modern day, Kanye's spiral from provocative genius to industry pariah, this was it. A tweet so Baffling, so explosively dumb, it managed to torpedo billion-dollar deals overnight and spark a global PR apocalypse. Let's rewind the tape. October 2022. Kanye logs into Twitter, the platform where common sense goes to die. He writes, "I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people." The funny thing is, I actually can't be anti-Semitic because black people are actually Jew also. The internet didn't just react, it detonated. Now, we're used to Kanye saying wild things. This is the same man who declared himself the greatest artist in human history and once demanded to be called Jesus. But this tweet? This wasn't ego. This wasn't performance art. This was reckless, dangerous, and flat-out anti-Semitic. And the fallout came faster than a Yeezy drop during Cyber Monday. Brands bailed. Adidas, the cornerstone of Yee's billion-dollar fashion empire, cut ties with him almost immediately. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist. This was financial decapitation. Forbes adjusted his net worth with the speed of a banker deleting FTX stocks. Suddenly, the man who once bragged about being richer than Jay-Z had less paper than a college dropout on ramen. Balenciaga? Gone? Gap? Ghosted? Foot Locker? They weren't just dropping Yeezys. They were dropping entire shelves like it was a Kanye clearance event. And if you think the damage stopped at fashion, oh no. His talent agency, I dropped him. Production on documentaries was frozen. Streaming services began quietly removing him from playlists. Hell, even his wax figure at Madame Tussauds got pulled. You know, you messed up when even your wax doppelganger gets canceled. And through it all, you doubled down. Instead of apologizing, he started doing interviews where he dug deeper, ranted harder, and looked increasingly unhinged. From podcast tirades to Tucker Carlson appearances, Kanye seemed hellbent on convincing the world that not only did he mean what he said, but that he was some kind of martyr for free speech. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. This wasn't about being misunderstood. This was about weaponizing a platform to push hate, then pretending it was artistic expression. But the wildest part? Even while the world condemned him, there was still a corner of the internet applauding. That's the twisted reality of modern fame. Even when you crash and burn, there are still people cheering, from the sidelines with popcorn and conspiracy theories. Kanye's tweet wasn't just a PR disaster, it was a cultural reckoning. It forced fans, brands, and entire industries to ask, how far is too far? And can a genius be so irresponsible that it cancels out the art? Because up until that moment, a lot of people gave Kanye grace. They said it was mental illness, they said it was trauma, they said it was the pressure of fame. But that tweet, that was the line in the sand. And you didn't just cross it, he moonwalked over it while setting fire to the flag. And yet, somehow, he's still here. Still ranting, still trying to sell something. Because in the strange twilight zone of 21st century celebrity, being canceled isn't the end. Sometimes it's just the beginning of your next act. So, yeah, if you want to know why it sucks to be born as Kanye West, here's your sign. One tweet can cost you everything, and worse, you might still think you won. Want more chaos, controversy, and genius gone rogue? Hit that drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for the next deep dive into the beautiful mess that is Kanye West. When your political phase ends, your music phase. There was a time when Kanye West was America's favorite wildcard unpredictable. Yes, but still riding the golden chariot of creativity. Then came the red hat. Not a fashion statement. Not a tour accessory. No, this was the mega hat. And suddenly Kanye's wildness didn't feel artistic anymore. It felt ideological and divisive, and just plain exhausting. Let's set the stage. It's 2018. Donald Trump is the most polarizing figure in the world, and Kanye decides it's the perfect moment to announce to the world, I love this guy. Cue the internet having a collective aneurysm. But Ye wasn't just tweeting support. He visited the White House. He rambled in the Oval Office. He called Trump a father figure and said the red hat made him feel like Superman. Imagine being the same artist who once rapped about George Bush not caring about black people, now cosplaying as Trump's #1 hype man. Cognitive dissonance? More like full-blown identity crisis? Fans were confused. Critics were furious. Even longtime collaborators were side-eyeing him like, is this performance art or a political breakdown? For a while, it seemed like Kanye had become the ultimate contrarian, doing it for the shock value. But the deeper he leaned in, the harder it became to dismiss. Wearing the MAGA hat wasn't just about Trump. It was about aligning himself with a movement that many saw as anti-black, anti-immigrant, and anti-everything Kanye once stood for, and the backlash was swift. Fans burned. Yeezy's celebs unfollowed him. Journalists couldn't keep up with the hot takes, but he thrived on it. Every new backlash became a badge of honor. He didn't just embrace the controversy, he amplified it. And for a guy who once used controversy to fuel his brand, this felt different. This wasn't music. This wasn't fashion. This was a man entangled in politics with no roadmap and no filter. The most heartbreaking part? It derailed his artistry. While everyone was dissecting his political beliefs, no one was talking about his music. Albums like "The" and "Jesus is King" were released under this political cloud, and even when they had moments of brilliance, they were overshadowed by the question, what the hell is Kanye doing? And just like that, the genius who once shaped culture with every beat was now trapped in a mega echo chamber? He wasn't setting trends, he was chasing headlines. So why does it suck to be Kanye West? Because one hat turned the world's most influential artist into a walking culture war, and in the end, not even the music could save him. Like what you're hearing. Don't forget to hit that sound off in the comments and subscribe for the next dive into Kanye's chaotic timeline. From Couture King to Retail Ghost, and all it took was Kanye being Kanye, once upon a time. In the glamorous land of overpriced sneakers and beige hoodies, there lived a self-proclaimed genius named The, who decided that conquering music wasn't enough. So, like any ambitious megalomaniac, he turned to fashion. And for a while, it actually worked. Yeezy wasn't just a brand, it was a cultural tidal wave. The kind of minimalist dystopian chic that made you look homeless and high fashion at the same time. Icons wore it, hypebeasts worshipped it. Resale prices soared like SpaceX rockets, and then everything caught fire. Again, let's rewind. Back when Kanye was still tolerated, Adidas saw him as the golden goose. The Yeezy Boosts became instant sellouts, the collabs were legendary, and for a hot second, it looked like the had reinvented himself as the Steve Jobs of sneakers. The man had his own design lab, his own factory ideas, his own Fashion Week show where models passed out from dehydration. But hey, art. But when you mix ego with ignorance, and then sprinkle a dash of public meltdown, you don't get innovation, you get incineration. And Kanye, bless his soul, turned the house of Yeezy into a collapsing Jenga tower of controversy. Remember that DEF CON tweet? Yeah, the one that shattered every business relationship like a glass vase at a Greek wedding. That was the death rattle for Yeezy, Adidas, which had made billions off his designs, severed ties faster than a bad Tinder date. Just like that, the empire vanished. Poof, gone, and here's the kicker. Kanye didn't own the designs. Adidas did. So those futuristic foam runners and sock-like sneakers, yeah, they kept making them, just without the Yeezy name. Talk about getting ghosted by your own creation. And it wasn't just Adidas, Gap bounced too. That whole revolutionize American basics plan, dead. Balenciaga, which once dressed in full apocalyptic couture, pretended they never knew him. It's wild. One minute you're in Paris Fashion Week, the next you're being airbrushed out of campaigns like you're Stalin's ex-best friend. But here's what really sucks. Kanye actually had something. Love it or hate it, the Yeezy aesthetic changed streetwear. It brought avant-garde minimalism to the mainstream, and then he nuked it with a tweet and a tantrum. Worse. Yet he thought he was untouchable, that his genius would shield him from accountability. Spoiler, it didn't. Fashion, for all its eccentricity, still knows how to blacklist. And unlike music, where they could drop a beat and people might still vibe, fashion cares deeply about image. And Kanye's image had become a dumpster fire in high resolution. Now he's out here trying to reboot the brand like nothing happened, selling warehouse leftovers at flea markets and acting like he's still the messiah of design. But the world moved on. The hype cooled. And in the brutal world of fashion, yesterday's icon is today's cautionary tale. So yeah, why does it suck to be Kanye West? Because he built a billion-dollar fashion empire with his bare hands, and then blew it up with his own damn mouth. Want more designer drama, ego explosions, and the slow-motion implosion of a cultural icon? Hit that drop a comment and subscribe for the next deep dive into Yee's crumbling universe. When praise becomes performance and faith turns into a fashion line. At first glance, it looked holy. White robes, gospel choirs, rolling hills, and Kanye standing in the center like a born-again prophet. But give it 5 seconds and a pair of Yeezys, and you realized this wasn't a church service. This was the Kanye West rebranding show. Sunday service wasn't about salvation. It was about image control, damage limitation, and maybe, just maybe, selling faith with a side of merch. Let's rewind. Post-Twitter meltdown, post-MAGA hat, post-PR nuclear fallout. Ye needed redemption fast. Enter Sunday service, a weekly spiritual experience that started off private and mysterious, then gradually snowballed into a full-blown media spectacle. Think Coachella meets communion. Picture your local worship group, but with better lighting and exclusive Adidas deals. Kanye's Sunday services were invite-only at first. Ultra-secret, ultra-curated. You didn't just show up, you got summoned like it was some kind of Illuminati brunch. Celebrities rolled in, draped in neutrals. Gospel choirs belted out. Classic soul and Kanye hits reimagined as hymns, and he barely spoke, just floated around like Moses with a mixing board. It was beautiful. It was bizarre. It was ... calculated. Because Sunday service, while wrapped in the language of revival, was very much a spectacle, a strategic pivot, a spiritual aesthetic. It blurred the line between devotion and branding so hard, you didn't know whether to pray or pull out your credit card. And Kanye? He played the part perfectly. 1 minute he was weeping about Jesus on stage. The next, he was selling $240 church socks and $300 sweatshirts at pop-up merch tents. Who needs tithes when you've got a Shopify backend and a global fan base ready to tithe with their PayPal? Let's not kid ourselves. Kanye's faith journey might be sincere, but the packaging? Oh, that was premium influencer-level brand engineering. Every Sunday service was live-streamed, regrammed, TikToked, and perfectly positioned to drown out the noise of everything else. The anti-Semitic tweets, the Trump photo ops, the custody battles, the collapsing Yeezy empire. In classic The Fashion, he didn't stop at just music. He tried to turn Sunday service into a movement. There were talks of starting a full-blown church, sermons, choir tours, even rumors of a Christian school/cult compound where kids would learn about faith, design, and STEM? Yeah, nothing screams divine curriculum like choir warm-ups followed by algebra in a dome-shaped classroom in the California hills, but it didn't stop there. He dropped Jesus is King, an album that tried to be both spiritual and sonically experimental. And while it had moments of brilliance, it was also undeniably strange. Less a worship album, more a Kanye mood board with Bible verses sprinkled on top. Critics were confused. Fans were divided. Pastors were scratching their heads like, is this gospel? Or just a really dramatic apology tour? And if you thought there was content with just saving souls and streams, think again. He kept reinventing the Sunday service vibe, bringing it to Coachella, Paris, Fashion Week, and even jails. Yes, actual prisons. It was like spiritual outreach meets performance art meets Kanye being Kanye. But here's the real kicker. Just when it started feeling like maybe he was turning a corner, grounding himself in something higher, he imploded again. Controversy after controversy piled on. The man of God mask slipped, revealing the same chaotic, unfiltered the underneath. And suddenly, Sunday service felt less like church, and more like a PR side quest from a man trying to outrun his own shadow. So why does it suck to be Kanye West? Because even when he reaches for heaven, he drags hell along for the ride. Because his search for salvation is always tangled up in spectacle. And because when you turn worship into marketing, you lose both the message and the moment. Want more revelations, red flags, and reinventions? Hit that like preach in the comments and subscribe before the start selling holy water NFTs. When your midlife crisis involves the White House, not a convertible? So Kanye West woke up one morning and decided, you know what? Rapping, designing, offending, and preaching just aren't enough. Let me run for president. Because, of course he did. Why settle for breaking the internet when you can attempt to break democracy? Let's set the scene. It's 2020. The world's on fire. There's a pandemic. There's political unrest. And out of the smoke rises the announcing via Twitter, of course, his divine plan to become leader of the free world. No political experience. No campaign infrastructure. No clear platform. Unless birthday party counts as one. Yes, that's what he called it. The birthday party, because according to Kanye, if he wins, it's everybody's birthday. This man took the most powerful office on earth and turned it into a surrealist performance art piece. Like if Salvador Dali and Elon Musk had a baby and gave it a ballot. He launched his campaign on July 4th because nothing screams patriotism like dropping a half-baked political plan during fireworks. Then came the rallies, or should we say, episodes. His first major campaign event in South Carolina was a roller coaster of cringe, chaos, and emotional breakdowns. Dressed in a bulletproof vest with security on the front because subtlety is for peasants, Kanye screamed, cried, ranted, and at one point declared Harriet Tubman didn't actually free the slaves. The crowd, understandably, looked like they were attending a hostage situation at a TED Talk. From there, things only got messier. There were reports that GOP operatives were quietly helping get his name on ballots in swing states. Not because they supported his policies. He didn't have any. But because they knew he'd split the vote and help Trump. It wasn't a campaign, it was weaponized chaos. And Kanye? He seemed to oscillate between thinking he was Moses and thinking he was Iron Man. Oh. And remember the Forbes interview? Where he said he'd model his presidency on Wakanda? That he no longer supported Trump, but still admired him? That Planned Parenthood was placed in black neighborhoods by white supremacists? That vaccines were the mark of the beast? Yeah, ... It was like reading a conspiracy theory bingo card on a doll. Behind the scenes, it was worse. There were reports of serious mental health episodes, of close friends and family desperately trying to intervene, of advisors quitting mid-campaign out of sheer panic. But they kept pushing forward, tweeting scripture 1 minute and wild declarations the next. He posted photos of his electoral map, which showed him winning 0 states and still claimed victory in the name of divine purpose. Let's be clear, this wasn't about politics. It wasn't even about power. This was pure, unfiltered ego masquerading as divine mission. Kanye didn't want to lead the nation. He wanted to define it. 2. Shape it into his personal art installation, the Oval Office as a recording booth, the Constitution as a track list. And here's the tragic irony. Millions of people watched it like a reality show. Some laughed, some cringed, others, disturbingly, cheered. Because in a world where clout is king, even the presidency isn't sacred anymore. It's just another platform for spectacle. Why does it suck to be Kanye West? Because when you reach a point where no one tells you no, you start to believe you're invincible. Because somewhere along the way, genius turned into delusion. And because the line between performance and politics disappeared and what was left wasn't leadership. It was a live-streamed breakdown in slow motion. Think the campaign trail was bad? Wait till you see what happens when you try to turn the White House into a studio. If you're still with us on this wild ride, smash that like button, drop your favorite The For President moment in the comments, and subscribe before Kanye declares war on Canada for stealing his vibe. When your public apology tour comes with a choir and Yeezy merch. Let's talk about Kanye West's latest pivot, a hard left turn straight into Jesus. Christ's lane. Yep, after years of I am a God energy, the suddenly decided he was God's favorite intern. And thus Sunday service was born, not in a church, not in a temple, not even in a strip mall chapel, but on hillsides, in fashion studios, in Coachella, because when Kanye does religion, he does it couture. At first glance, it looked kind of beautiful. An all-black gospel choir dressed in Yeezy neutrals, swaying to celestial arrangements of Yee's greatest hits. It was church but filtered through Instagram aesthetics and priced like a VIP experience. Jesus walks but in Boost 700s. But don't get it twisted, this wasn't your grandma's Sunday sermon. There was no pastor, no Bible readings. Just a spiritually rebranded Kanye leading a congregation of influencers, hipsters, and the occasional Kardashian, all vibing under the illusion that this was spiritual revival, not a celebrity. Redemption arc, and oh, how convenient the timing was. After the TMZ meltdowns, after the MAGA hat backlash, after the slavery comment cratered his image with the black community Kanye found, Jesus, just in time to clean the PR mess he made. But instead of doing interviews or issuing apologies like a regular mortal, he decided to host a weekly concert disguised as a spiritual awakening. The man turned repentance into a runway, and like everything Kanye touches it got big. Super Bowl weekend, Sunday service. Paris Fashion Week, Sunday service. Coachella? Mega Sunday service with mosh pits and sweat-stained salvation. The choir got signed. The albums got dropped. Jesus is King debuted with a gospel fusion sound that some called brave, and others called a cry for help wrapped in pipe organs. But it didn't stop there. Kanye took it even further. He started preaching. Full-on open the gates of heaven preaching, talking about the evils of abortion, pornography, premarital sex, this from the same man who once rapped Bleached a Hole into a love song. And suddenly, there became a self-proclaimed Christian innovator, acting like he discovered the cross before it was cool. The merch? Oh, you bet there was merch. $300 sweatshirts that said, Jesus is King in barely legible font. $50 socks that said, Church, because nothing says spiritual rebirth like monetizing it. Kanye didn't just find God, he branded him. It was faith, but make it fashion. And look, let's be real, some of it was beautiful. The music had soul. The choir was undeniable. There was something transcendent in hearing Ultralight Beam reimagined as a gospel anthem. But it's impossible to ignore the marketing machine humming under the hallelujahs. Kanye's Jesus wasn't nailed to a cross, he was stitched into a hoodie and sold at the merch tent. The Sunday service era blurred all the lines between worship and performance, between faith and fame, between healing and hype. And Kanye, as always, was at the center of the chaos, half prophet, half provocateur, standing in the eye of his own designer storm. So, why does it suck to be Kanye West? Because even when he tries to find peace, it turns into a press tour. Because every sincere moment gets tangled in spectacle. And because even God's name can't escape the gravitational pull of his ego. Still think Sunday service was all spirit and no strategy? Tell us what your favorite Kanye gospel moment was in the comments below. Bonus points if it involves Kim awkwardly clapping in the background. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next Sunday when Kanye replaces communion wafers with Yeezy slides. Because when you've mastered fashion, music, and controversy, why not try to run a country? Yes, the year was 2020. The world was already on fire, literally and politically. So, of course, Kanye West looked at the chaos and thought, you know what this moment needs? Me. And just like that, he officially announced his candidacy for president of the United States on Twitter. On the 4th of July, wearing a bulletproof vest, at a campaign rally where he cried about Harriet Tubman and almost broke down talking about abortion and his daughter. It wasn't a campaign, it was a fever dream. Let's be honest, nobody knew if it was real. Was this a publicity stunt, a marketing scheme for another album? Or just Kanye being Kanye, serving unfiltered thoughts wrapped in the delusion of destiny? He said God told him to run. But to most people, it felt like a Kanye iFeed episode of Black Mirror, except nobody could find the off switch. And sure, we've had celebrity presidents before, but this was different. This wasn't just a rich guy trying to lead. This was an artist in a full-blown identity meltdown, turning the most powerful office in the world into a backdrop for his ego. No political plan. No campaign infrastructure. Just tweets. Merch, and a few the For Prez hats that look suspiciously like Yeezy leftovers. But it gets darker. Behind the chaos, there was real concern. Kanye's mental health was spiraling in full public view. Advisors came and went. His family reportedly begged him to stop. Even Elon Musk, who endorsed him, eventually backed away yeah, this might be too much even for me. The rallies were train wrecks. One moment he's promising free weed and revamping Wakanda. The next, he's weeping on stage about nearly aborting his daughter North. And all of it, every meltdown, every bizarre speech was BROADCAS for the world to see, like some tragic Netflix special nobody asked for. He got on the ballot in just a handful of states. He spent millions of his own money. He got about 60,000 votes total. That's right, 60,000. That's less than a mid-level TikToker gets in likes on a sleepy Tuesday afternoon. But this isn't just about losing. It's about how he lost, loudly, publicly, with no filter, no brakes, and no one around him willing or able to pull him back from the edge. Because at that point, Kanye wasn't surrounded by friends. He was surrounded by yes-men, hyper-beasts, and opportunists who saw the train speeding toward the cliff and thought, maybe we'll get a Netflix deal out of it. And even after the campaign fizzled, the damage lingered. His credibility, torched, his reputation, reduced to memes and pity, his legacy, complicated as always. because now he wasn't just the controversial rapper or the fashion disruptor. He was that guy who tried to become president and cried on stage in a bulletproof vest. So why does it suck to be born as Kanye West? Because sometimes your biggest downfall isn't your critics, it's your own delusions of grandeur. Because chasing greatness without boundaries leads to spectacle, not substance. And because even when the world is burning, Kanye finds a way to make it all about him. Think he'll try again in 2028? Or will it be Kanye versus AI for the White House? Drop your predictions in the comments. And don't forget to, subscribe and remember vote responsibly. Unless Kanye's on the ballot again, then maybe just hide your mail-in. Because when your fans stop worshiping your music, you just make them worship ... you. By now. Kanye West isn't just a rapper, a producer, a designer, or a walking headline. He's a preacher. Or at least that's what he's aiming for. Enter Sunday Service, the weekly gospel-themed performance extravaganza/church/fashion show, led by the himself and his army of designer-robed vocalists belting out God's praises like they're auditioning for The Voice, Divine Edition. And at first, it was beautiful. Ethereal harmonies, minimalist pianos, a soft breeze rustling through the hills of Calabasas. It felt like Kanye had finally found peace, like he was using music to connect with something bigger than himself. But then, of course, it got Kanye. What started as a spiritual revival turned into the Church of the Self, with Kanye at the altar, wearing Yeezys like holy relics and rewriting gospel lyrics to feature guess who? Himself. Instead of Jesus is King, it was more like Jesus is co-executive producer. The Sunday Service merch? A revelation in capitalism. $300 sweatshirts with Holy Spirit screen printed like a clearance bin tee from Urban Outfitters. Socks that read Jesus Walks retailing for $50 because nothing says spiritual awakening like price gouged ankle wear. But hey, that's the Kanye paradox. He'll give you a song titled God is while simultaneously charging you divine prices to experience it. Worship ... Then came the Jesus is King album, the church-themed IMAX film, and the publicly denouncing secular music as if Jesus never happened, as if I am a God wasn't a thing. Suddenly the man who once bragged about getting ahead from a model became a gospel purist. Just another Monday in Ye's world of contradictions. And let's not forget, Kanye wasn't just singing about faith, he was weaponizing it. His born-again Christian arc became the next branding phase. He wasn't touring. He was evangelizing. He wasn't releasing songs. He was delivering messages, and if you didn't buy into it, well, you just weren't spiritually enlightened enough. Oh, and did we mention the tax exemption whispers? Yeah, some folks started asking if Sunday Service was just a slick detour into nonprofit status for the Inc. Imagine founding a worship group and somehow making it profitable. That's either brilliant or blasphemous or both. The choir? Amazing. The music? At times transcendent. But the man at the center? Still the same, though now he's cosplaying as a pastor with better lighting and a live band. The sermons became rants. The vibes became vanity. And the gospel turned into gospel according to the... And what happens when you mix unchecked ego with religion? You get a man who compares himself to Moses, who redesigns choirs like runway models, and who turns prayer into performance art. You don't walk away feeling closer to God, you walk away wondering if you just paid $500 to attend a TED Talk in heaven's waiting room. So why does it suck to be born as Kanye West? Because even when you're searching for salvation, your own ego won't let you find it. Because what could have been a rebirth turned into a rebrand. And because when you think you're the vessel of divine truth, every mirror just becomes another pulpit. Want to testify? Hit the comments and confess. Is the prophet or just the showman who hijacks Sunday? Subscribe and pass the offering plate preferably, filled with likes and algorithms. You know, you're a different breed when getting canceled is just ... Tuesday. Let's be real. Kanye West doesn't get canceled, he just reloads. Most celebrities, when they say something controversial, go into hiding. Apology tour, PR crisis control, notes app statements. In lowercase letters with a sad emoji at the end. But Kanye? He triples down, hijacks a podcast, drops a half-finished track, and then casually compares himself to Jesus, Hitler, and Steve Jobs in the same breath. And the wildest part? The world lets him. Let's rewind to the time the said slavery was a choice, Twitter exploded. Think pieces rained down like apocalyptic fire. Celebs clutched pearls. Brands distanced themselves. And what did Kanye do? He walked into TMZ and doubled down live. It was like watching a man pour gasoline on a fire while standing in the middle of it, wearing a Yeezy fireproof suit. But wait, there's more. The anti-Semitic rants? Oh yeah, that wasn't a slip-up. That was Kanye West going full internet chaos gremlin mode, tweeting that he was going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, and then refusing to back down. Cue immediate backlash, dropped brand deals, Adidas, panic quitting the Yeezy line, and Kanye going full Alex Jones core in interviews that no sane person would touch with a 10-foot mic boom. And yet, somehow, he's still here. Still selling records, still trending, still showing up to fashion shows and running for president and wearing shoulder pads that make him look like a Final Fantasy boss. It's like watching someone jump off a career cliff and land in a pile of money made from controversy. The question is, why doesn't cancellation stick to thee? Is it because people genuinely think he's a misunderstood genius? Because the art outweighs the chaos? Or because society just loves watching a car crash in slow motion? Let's be honest. Kanye is the perfect storm of untouchable fame, unpredictable brilliance, and total disregard for consequence. He doesn't care what you think. In fact, the angrier you get, the louder he gets. Every backlash becomes a beat, every scandal a sample. Every canceled partnership, just another free headline. And in the age of the algorithm, outrage equals attention equals influence equals income. Kanye figured that out years ago. While other celebs beg to be seen as authentic, Kanye shows up, burns the rule book, and dares you to look away. He's not uncancelable because he's invincible. He's uncancelable because he's profitable. He knows that controversy is currency and he's rich in both. But here's the real tragedy. Somewhere under all that noise, under the MAGA hats and Twitter rants and ego sermons, there's a deeply talented, deeply broken man screaming into the void. And instead of healing, he keeps turning pain into headlines. So why does it suck to be born as Kanye West? Because when your cancellation becomes content and your downfall fuels your brand, you're not a free man. You're a prisoner to your own chaos. You're the architect of your empire and its arsonist too. And you're stuck watching the whole thing burn in 4K, wondering if the next song will be a classic or a confession. So go ahead, like the video, subscribe for the next chapter of this saga, and drop a comment. Is Kanye the culture ... or the cautionary tale? Either way, you can't stop watching. And that's the scariest part.